They bring up all the science, bringing up our food, bringing up our clothing, bringing up care packages from home, and we grab it with our robotic arm. We execute all the science that's on board. Some of them we're able to offload trash and have them burn up in the atmosphere. The other ones, the Dragon is the one that's able to come back and bring our science back to Earth. And also our progress. The only one we didn't see during our increment was the HTV. And we also had to do spacewalks to do repairs outside. The spacewalks are one of the more taxing things that we do. It takes a lot of effort, and we really have to clear off the schedule for all the crew to be able to get it done. But right here you see Mark Vande Hei on the very bottom of the space station coming out during his first EVA. 250 miles of nothing once you come out that airlock on the bottom of the space station. And as you can imagine, just thinking about it, being able to have to come out that hatch, this was a GoPro I had on, it doesn't matter if it's your first or your fifth, your body naturally reacts, and those blood vessels tighten, your muscles constrict, and if we all went up to the 39th floor of the view here, and there was a ledge we could kind of lean over, you would have that, that feeling of what it's like to go on a spacewalk. It's a few hundred times more intense. We got to rely on the training. We have that great facility in the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, and we go in there, we practice time over time. Here's where my hands go. Here's where my tethers go. Here's where my buddy's going to be. Here's where my equipment is. And you're able to go ahead and get to work because you've planned and practiced and worked on it so much. This is Mark on his first spacewalk working on a camera. And you can see at the bottom, he's actually riding the robotic arm. And it was really neat to have Paolo fly the robotic arm. And Sergei took this picture the same time I took the previous picture. And you can see Mark right up here. Look how tiny he is. There's a robotic arm that Paolo was flying. That's just half of space station. That's the left half. And see how small we are. It's just massive. Amazing testament to engineering and our international partnership to have this thing up there working. There's a whole mirroring side of space station off the right side of the picture you're not able to see. And so, it's very rare to have a moment just to kind of look out. But this gives you an idea of how fast the Earth is turning underneath us. We're going 5 miles every second. And certainly, the Earth is not flat. Hopefully, this will prove it to everybody. And here's Mark working. You can see how everything's floating around. It's really an exhausting day, but it's also rewarding. We were able to go ahead and replace the latching end effectors on the robotic arm and put that back into a serviceable mode. But the spacewalks nowadays are typically 6 to 7 hours. The reality is you're getting into the suit. You're closing it up, you're doing leak checks, you're doing a in-suit exercise to get the nitrogen out of your body. And then you get your tools put on, then you get put in the airlock with all the bags you're gonna do the equipment work with, depressurize it, do the spacewalk, repressurize the airlock when you're done, then get out of your suit. And typically we're about 11 and a half hours in that suit for a spacewalk. And all we have is about 3/4 of a liter of water in a bag in front of us with a straw. There's no food, there's no Powerade, there's no energy drink. And so it's one of those things that's why we practice on Earth in the pool doing the same thing so we can be able to have the stamina to execute these spacewalks. Now, certainly one of the other parts of our job, as you heard, is we're able to actually do outreach and speak with people and share the message of what humankind's doing in low Earth orbit. We had the opportunity to speak with Pope Francis. And I know that it's a big challenge right now for the ISS to take the international partnership in a commercialization era and transition over. And so we figured you guys probably needed some help. So last month when we were in Italy, we went by and went to the top to try to get you guys some help. And we gave Pope Francis his own flight suit with an Argentinian flag and the mantle with the Pope's crest on it. And so I'm hopeful. I know there's some Sierra Nevada folks here. Hopefully you guys maybe can modify your vehicle and have a space Pope mobile at some point because I think he's interested. And we also do a lot of outreach with students, and that's the fun part because what's the point of us doing our work for those of us that are wearing the suits of any flavor or involved in industry if we don't have the young people that are interested in studying the STEM fields and interested in coming up and taking our place and carrying on the mission further. This was one young lad who had a great question.
Hi, Wendy. I'm Skylar. Can you do a one finger push-up? Can you show us?
All right, Skylar, we'll go ahead and and show you what we can do up here, and I'll have astronaut Joe tell you what I'm doing.
May not have a whole lot of experience sequencing genes, but as a Marine, I have plenty of experience doing push-ups, so I was uniquely qualified for this.
So he's doing the regular 200 push-ups like you guys would do down there. Oh, he's getting strong. He can do one arm. Can you do one arm? One finger. I see it. No hands. So yes, to answer your question, yes, you can. It is fun to be up here.
And you see ordinary people doing extraordinary things in space, and being able to show kids that, maybe the floor isn't always the floor, and the ceiling isn't always the ceiling. It just depends on your point of view. And so we really enjoy being able to do that. You saw our Space Hawaiians. We had an Aloha Friday things where we would do that. And you can see our mission control team joining in and connecting with the mission, wearing their Hawaiian shirts on an Aloha Friday. But for those that are not in the industry, especially young people, this is just one shift of 3 that are in the mission control 24 hours a day, keeping the space station running. They're the ones that run the space station. We just operate stuff on board, and they keep us safe, especially while we're sleeping. But behind them, there's also, for all the disciplines, whether it's the IT folks or the folks that take care of our life support system or the folks that keep the lights on, our medical doctors, the Capcom, the flight director, all those people have back rooms of engineers who are looking at the even more detailed data. And then we have engineering rooms that are looking and ready on standby in case something goes wrong. And those folks only represent a small amount of the tens of thousands of people across this country and around the world, because there's mission control centers in Germany, in Japan, in Huntsville, and in Russia that are all doing the same thing. And the astronauts are just the really teeny tiny part of it that's the visible part, but we're just a teeny tiny part of it, and we couldn't do any of the work that we do on orbit without them. And so we're very appreciative of all the folks that make it possible for us to be able to finally turn that wrench or put the fixer in the experiment or whatever it is on orbit, because their work is the work that allows us to do this stuff in space. We're working and living in the same place. And so that gets a little tiring after a while. So we had a tradition where every Friday night we go down to the Russian segment. This is the service module. And our Russian crewmates would make dinner. We'd eat the Russian food and have the Russian drink and be able to get a break from our normal work day. And then on Saturdays, they would all come down and we'd be in the U.S. segment, and we'd have dinner down there. This is actually our Thanksgiving meal, and you know that because we got our candlelit dinner up here that we printed out on our printer. But we've got our freeze-dried food. We've got canned food. We've got our fresh lettuce that we had grown. And it's really great to be able to talk about what we were doing on station, but also, hey, what's going on at home? How are you doing personally? It wasn't just people getting holed up in their crew quarters and spending time by themselves. We also had an opportunity to get some pizza up there. And so it was sent up, and we ended up making our own pizzas. And you see all the white stuff on the table. That's duct tape that's been turned around, and Velcro that allows us to stick things like the sauce and everything on it. But as you can see, you let something go in space, and it just has a mind of its own. You've imparted a little force on it, and it starts floating away. There's our suitcase food warmer. And see, we're having to use scissors to cut it. They didn't trust us with a pizza cutter. That's of course, American meat lovers. And the Italian anchovies and olives. Best tasting pizza we ever had because it was such a difference from what we had normally had. Now, it's great when you can have a job where it's fun to go to work. And whether it was taking out trash or going to find some piece of hardware in the PMM or going to go work out, it was really neat to be able to have the opportunity to just kind of float around and do the things that you thought of as a kid would be really cool. This is going into my crew quarters up on the zenith side of the station. And my favorite, doing the Silver Surfer. Now, the thing is I know Kenny Todd's out there thinking, wow, we really did not work these guys hard enough when they were up there. But photography and looking at our Earth, that was the part that was most enjoyable for us. And that even when you had time on your own, trying to share what we were seeing with you guys down here was something that was important to, especially Sergey, Paul, and I. And we ended up taking over 808,000 pictures during our increment. They surprised us when we got back. And I know that was certainly a headache for all our Plutos and our folks trying to bring those pictures back down from space station. I think they mentioned it was something like 3 times more than any other increment had ever taken. Not because we were trying to take a lot of pictures, it's just that was what we enjoyed. And so the fruits of our labor end up being these pictures that we show you. We got to see the solar eclipse last August 21st, and how that big, huge umbra, that shadow of the moon, what it looked like on the Earth from above. That was very impressive, even for Peggy, who had been up there for 665 days. And unfortunately, far too many hurricanes and typhoons. Especially the one that hit close to home was Harvey's coming aboard the Texas coast. Our families are all down below, and we're up there pretty much useless. All we're able to do is be high-speed cheerleaders and take pictures. But the science continued. We had the mission control team working, and they got support, even though Houston was devastated, and a lot of people at the Johnson Space Center had their homes flooded. It was almost transparent to us on orbit because the ops were able to keep going. That was a real amazing thing to us, and we offer huge thanks to the Johnson Space Center team for being able to make that continue to work. But we're also taking pictures of Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Maria, Jose, and we were able to get pictures as we're going over the hurricane and getting these 3-dimensional pictures for them that they are able to put together. And researchers at MIT are actually being able to use those to go ahead and look at their models and how they model hurricanes and all that. Because satellites are out here and they're just taking stale pictures from one height and one point of view. And so even though we were just cheerleaders, the pictures we were able to use are actually allowing people on Earth to help people on Earth by hopefully making better models for hurricanes. Just a little bit down the road, we were also easily able to see the fires in Southern California in the late November, December timeframe. There's Los Angeles, there's Ventura area, Point Mugu, a naval air station. And hopefully, we're able to, emergency response people are able to use those photos to be able to, help figure out areas that maybe they're not seeing or areas that they need to target. But of course, we enjoyed most of the pictures of Earth, the beauty of our home planet. Just how the Earth is shaped, by volcanoes, and how the plates have moved, and it's just this mosaic of colors and shapes and sizes. Even the man-made stuff was just really interesting to see. And of course, another shameless photo of where we are right now in San Francisco with the Golden Gate Bridge, and we're somewhere right around there in this hotel. The one part that was really interesting was only at the very end, after 4 months or so, we finally got over the Himalayas where it was daytime. And so, of course, as a human being, the Himalayas, wow, what do we got? The tallest planet on Earth, Mount Everest, just under 30,000 feet. Can we find it? Because it's truly the needle in the haystack. You're looking at the entire Himalayan plateau, trying to pick out one little mountain. And I don't know if you can pick it out in the middle of the picture there, but this little bump right here, that's Mount Everest. And it looks like almost you're taking a picture from a plane, right? Looking down at a mountain range if you're going over the Rockies, but realize again, we're at 250 miles above the Earth, going at 5 miles a second. So that was a real enjoyable thing for us to be able to actually find Mount Everest. We really enjoyed the nighttime stuff because half of your orbit is night. And so we're able to see where the main pockets of populations are. And this is the Nile River, snaking through the delta with Cairo and Alexandria. We've got Israel and Lebanon in the background. And the sun's just getting ready to come up, and you see the horizon's getting really lit up there. This is Bangkok, Thailand, in the far right of the picture. 16 million people live there, and so that's a pretty big city. But look at the size of just that one lightning flash in a thunderstorm cloud. How big that is, how much energy must be in that compared to the city of 16 million. And when you look around on the left side and you see all these green lights, those aren't like alien spacecraft or lightning bugs. Those are all individual fishing boats. They have these big bright lights to attract the squid and the fish so they can collect them. And so we are looking at individual fishing boats you can see from space. So it's amazing the technology and the opportunity and the things you can see in the nighttime. We also were able to take pictures of the city. We got some Nikon D5 cameras when the Cygnus vehicle came up that revolutionized nighttime photography for us, because we always had to have a bogat arm because of the speeds that we had to shoot the nighttime photography. With the D5, we're actually able to shoot handheld like it was daylight. It was an amazing camera. And you can look at all the different colors of the streets and the highways, and you can see the different kinds of light bulbs they're using. And we're looking at light pollution and things like that. It's these types of things that they're able to use to research to figure out what we need to do to make changes. And here's a picture of Seoul again over right here. And obviously to the north of that, you can see North Korea. And so not a whole lot of lights there, but we know there's a lot of people. And so hopefully, look at real time what's happening. Maybe soon those people will actually be able to come into the light and be able to join the rest of the world and be able to be seen from space. This is lovely San Francisco. You can see here's where we are, Golden Gate Bridge, Oakland Bay Bridge. Very distinctive. There was no other city like this that we saw going around the planet. But the auroras were the parts that were the biggest treat. On my first flight, I didn't see any auroras. But we were treated to northern auroras, southern auroras, aurora australis, aurora borealis, and that cosmic energy hitting the atmosphere. The kids heard about it before, where we are 60 miles up is about the boundary we have for where space and the atmosphere. And right at that upper level, there's oxygen molecules that get hit by the solar particles and get energized and give us those auroras. And someone asked the question yesterday, are we able to see the stars? Well, when you take out the ambient light that's around, we're able to see a lot of stars. And Two Fish captured this time lapse of, this is just a soda straw look through one camera at our Milky Way galaxy. Look at how bright and how almost solidly white that is. And we have a tiny white dwarf star and all the planets that we have in our solar system. Imagine how many planets are out there with these big, huge stars like Arcturus and these other places that may have human, capability to support human life at some point. So we ended up coming home. We ran out of quarters to put into Kirk's machine, and so we came home, got packed up in our Soyuz, and it was amazing. Once we closed the hatch, did the leak checks, we undocked. 3.5 hours later, we're on the ground, and it was just. As you heard yesterday, very wonderful to have that parachute shock opening, knowing that it worked and we were decelerating. You come back and they have the retro rockets fire, which slow us down just that little bit before we actually touch down. The Russians call it a soft landing because they'll ask you, they'll go, hey, did you live? You say, yeah, okay, that was a soft landing. And so with all that exercise protocols and everything we've done on space, we felt really great, and it was astounding to me that I was just able to walk after being in space that long. Really great testament to all the work we're doing to sustain people, and so when we go to Mars on long journeys, I know that we're going to be able to function just fine when we get there. All these pictures, all the videos, all exist online, whether it's the @Space Station, whether it's the NASA website, the Johnson Space Center, any of the individual astronauts. Go look up Astro Drew, Astro Ricky, Astro Alex, Astro Serena, the ones that are up on orbit right now, and see what's really happening. All the stuff's there. It's your taxpayer dollars paid for the space station, the equipment we use to take the pictures and video, paid for by taxpayer government employees. And so please go use it. For all you students, there's all type of STEM in space. We call them STEM demonstrations. They're up there demonstrating laws of physics by showing you stuff in zero gravity. Please go take a look at those sites and utilize those resources. And so here's a picture from Joe Acaba in the cupola. You can see he's got the whole world in his hands. And I've shown you a few pictures, but the beauty of our home planet, this little spaceship Earth, is really, truly